Hi, folks. Week 5, last lecture video here. So we're really just going to wrap things up and talk about the signature assignment, culminating that. So important due dates. Number 2 here, no new readings this week. All you're doing is focusing on your focus group and the signature assignment. We'll go through that and a little reminder and wrap up. So important due dates. I know you like consistency, things due on Sunday by the end of the day, but I'd like you to finish the final part of the signature assignment by Friday, August 8th. Presentation and reflection uploaded, delivered into VoiceThread, so that by the 10th, you can comment on at least 2 of your peers' presentations on VoiceThread. Also on the 10th, that's when I'd like you to submit all missing assignments from previous weeks. There are no late penalties. It's just if it's not turned in by August 10th. And these are the weekly assignments, not the signature assignments. Then after the 10th, it'll just be a 0 or missing. But Wednesday the 13th, I know some of you have had a challenge scheduling your focus group. So Wednesday the 13th, last day to turn in your signature assignment. I'm going to be working on grades that week, even though the class closes on the 10th. My grades are due the 15th. And then I'd love for you should be getting an email, perhaps from the university, maybe from me, doing a course evaluation. Then enjoy a week or 2 before you start your next classes. All right, so some of you don't get too concerned about August 3rd due date for part 4 of the signature assignment. If your focus group is August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or even 7th, turn it in when you can and do these pieces of it. Okay, so some of you are still working on this. Part 5, final reflection and presentation. So all of this is on Canvas as well. Literally, kind of I copied and pasted stuff here. But presentation, I was told you're familiar with this process. Sorry if you don't like it or if it's redundant, but this is the best way to think about doing it. You're going to put your presentation on VoiceThread, record as you talk through it. I would like it to be 15 minutes max. I have to go through. It sounds like a burden. I have the joy of going through 15-minute presentations. So I also want to manage my time as well. Here are the guidelines here. Guidelines will be on Canvas as well. The change that I did, if you read the syllabus at the outset and looked through the signature assignments, I had a separate reflection essay that was like 5 pages, expanding on your journals, on your memoing, etc. Switch that up. And I just want you to do a briefer reflection. It can be included in your slides for your presentation, or it could just be a 1 to 2 page narrative. Looking at some of these questions that I've posed here, again, this will be on Canvas. I'm going to show you an example that I put in a slideshow from a presentation I did a few years ago. But I want it to be open-ended, but I just want it to be a thoughtful reflection on your learning from this year. All right, here are 2 presentations that I did to give you an idea. I am not the best at presentations, PowerPoint, Google Slides. It's not too fancy, but it is thorough and simple, and I think to the point. So when I did my action research project in my EDD program, it looked like this. Okay, I will let you scroll through it so you can get an idea of what I went through. I might have shared this before. Did not expect you to do a survey. Some of you did some surveys, so if you want to include a little bit of data, that's great. But really kind of what were the highlights and what were some of the findings and themes and supportive quotes. That's what I'm looking for the most in terms of themes, quotes. How is this tied to your research questions, to your equity focus, to your codes, and then having a few, included a Star Wars clip. It made sense at the time. And then recommendations for interventions or for next steps. Okay. The second example I'm showing you here This was just a focus group I did that kind of was a springboard for my dissertation, looking at the experiences of African-American faculty, staff, colleagues that I worked with at a predominantly white school. This one might look a little bit more aligned to what I expect from you, going through the protocol, recruitment, and then categories of themes or findings. This category here, that was an overall theme, and then some findings and supportive quotes. And this was one conversation I had, 60 or 70 minutes with about 6 or 7 colleagues. So you can see how I clustered the categories here. Of course, I probably overdid it because that's just what I do. Conclusions, implications. And then this part, reflection on the process, it's pretty minimal and basic. I would like you to go a little bit further than this, but this is the idea at the end of your presentation to include, where is that again? A reflection. It could be 1 to 2 slides, or if you just prefer writing a narrative, that's fine. You can see mine here was just 1 slide, but you kind of get the point of what I reflected on in terms of my leadership, my research process, and just what I was learning in general. All right, so that is that. Rubric, okay? The integration between Canvas and VoiceThread is not perfect. I created a rubric for this assignment, but it's not going to show up when I grade whatever you submit. I'm going to give a grade on VoiceThread, and it's out of 60 points. That grade will show up here. And I'll probably put a few qualitative comments here, but I'm not able to mark the rubric, so it's an odd thing. But I still wanted to show you the rubric that I just created so you can get a sense of my expectations. There are 5 sections to it, and you can get this rubric, of course, from, I don't know what this student view looks like. I'm not going to take the time to do that. But here's the final assignment, presentation slideshow with reflection, all the details here, the examples that are in the presentations that I made are linked here. Also, how to submit a presentation, how to view your peers in case you need a review there. Preview rubric, you can click on that. I just cut and pasted the 5 rows. First one, looking at slideshow and commentary, just kind of the upload of that in the presentation. Next one's looking at the content. Third row is looking at the themes and findings, and you can notice how I kind of weighted the totals here. Content, themes, I weighted a little bit more. Connection to equity and justice, I'd like you to make that explicit. It doesn't need to be one particular slide. It could be sprinkled throughout the presentation. And then the reflection piece. It could be the slides or it could be the narrative. All right. Also asking you to do one last memo. Hopefully you won't get tired of them, but just looking at your coding process. Okay, what were the deductive and inductive codes that worked? Did you lean more on inductive codes? Did you go through and have different layers of codes that related to process, emotions, values, or something else? And then, you know, talking a little bit about the patterns that you found. Again, this could be narrative. You could insert like a chart here, or just talk about 3 or 4 codes that were really impactful. I've just put here a few screenshots. This was an example of if you don't want to do just like a narrative memo, which again, you can just kind of write and talk about the process. You could do like a small little code book. And you can talk about, this is from Dr. Bingham's article, 2 different codes, data analysis and data-driven classroom practice. And it just gives a brief definition of the code. And then maybe talk about, you know, maybe include a few that worked or didn't work. This is another example, code definition example from the text. I just pulled this from some article off of Sage Journals. Or if you want to put together a spreadsheet that kind of shows your pattern of codes here. This is something I showed in last week's presentation. It's a little messy. It makes sense to me. but I think some of you visualized it and it helped you kind of visualize how the coding works together. If you want to do something like this, you can, but it does not need to be this elaborate. All right. And if you choose to go the code book route, I mean, you could just enter 4 or 5 codes that were really impactful and just indicate whether they are deductive, inductive, or some other type of code. I know this is new for some of you, but it's good practice. Again, the due dates are here. Give yourself a little breathing room. August 13th, if you need it. But if you can get it done by the 8th, I would love it, so that folks have a chance to comment on presentations. We'll just see how this works out. I know it's a tight time frame. It's a short class. But this is my intent. If you have any questions, let me know. And can I click on the music here? We got to end with a little bit. Office hours this week, but if you need an appointment at a different time, let me know. Okay.